Matt Walker for the Franciscan Beat. In today's news, a panel considers a court nominee, an opposition leader is jailed, stocks open lower, the second half of a women's Final Four is decided tonight, the men's Final Four is set, Raiders look for approval to relocate, and a kickboxer dies in preparation for a fight. All of this and more on today's Franciscan Beat. A Senate panel is meeting to consider President Donald Trump's nominee to the Supreme Court, and Democrats are widely expected to delay a vote until next week. The Judiciary Committee is gathering at noon today. Democrats have the power to seek a one-week postponement on the decision on Neil Gorsuch, the Denver-based appeals court judge. A dozen Democrats and independents, led by Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, have announced their opposition to the nominee, arguing that Gorsuch has ruled often against workers and in favor of corporations. The family of an American who was killed in last week's attack in London is expressing gratitude toward today for kindness of strangers, as they insisted some good would come from the tragedy. Kurt Cochran from Utah was on the last day of a European trip celebrating his 25th anniversary when an attacker mowed down pedestrians on Westminster Bridge before stabbing a police officer in Parliament Courtyard. Cochran's wife, Melissa, suffered a broken leg, a shattered rib, and a head injury, but she is steadily improving. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he looks forward to welcoming the U.S. Ambassador David Friedman to Israel, and especially to Jerusalem. Netanyahu, speaking from Jerusalem, was addressing the annual conference of the American-Israel Public Affairs Committee, the powerful Israel body lobby group. He's alluding to Trump's administration's deliberations about whether to move the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, in line with Israel's long-standing wishes. As a presidential candidate, Donald Trump promised to move the embassy, but now he's saying he's examining the issue closely. Friedman is expected to work at least partially out of Jerusalem, where he has a home. Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny has been jailed for 15 days for resisting police orders. A court in Moscow today ordered the arrest of Navalny, who was detained yesterday as he was making his way to a massive protest in Moscow. Tens of thousands of people took to the streets across Russia in what was largely unauthorized demonstrations against government corruption. Navalny and his associates organized the protests, which were the biggest show of defiance in Russia since the anti-government protests of 2011 and 2012. Banks and industrial companies are leading stocks lower on Wall Street in early trading. Morgan Stanley alone lost 4.5% early today. Traders are concerned that the defeat of the Republican-backed healthcare reform bill last week will result in increased difficulty getting tax cuts and other parts of President Donald Trump's agenda passed. In sports, half the women's Final Four field is complete after two thrilling games. The other two spots in Dallas will be decided tonight when UConn faces upstart Oregon and South Carolina plays Florida State. It took a huge second-half rally and one last defensive stop for Stanford to beat Notre Dame. The Cardinals will play the winner of the South Carolina-Florida State game, and Stanford is joined in the Final Four by Mississippi State. The NCAA's men's Final Four is set, with both North and South Carolina in the mix. The number 1 Tar Heels advanced this far for the 20th time, and the 7th-seeded Gamecocks have earned their first berth in the national semifinals. South Carolina will take on Gonzaga in the first semifinal Saturday at Glendale, Arizona. North Carolina will play Midwest champ Oregon in Arizona. Bearing an unforeseen obstacle, the Oakland Raiders seem certain to get approval today to relocate to Las Vegas. Several team owners have said this week they don't envision a scenario when Raiders owner Mark Davis doesn't get the required 24 votes to move the team. A Scottish kickboxer has died after an apparent attempt to lose weight in preparation for a fight in Thailand. Police in Thailand say the body of 21-year-old Jordan Koh was discovered Sunday morning clad in multiple layers of clothing. He had been 6.6 pounds over the weight class limit for a Sunday night fight and was last seen Saturday morning headed out from a resort for a workout. In the weather today, expect a high of 68 degrees with mostly cloudy skies. Tonight, most of us will be staying indoors in order to avoid the forecast rain showers expected this evening in the Ohio Valley, which will be accompanied by a low of 53 degrees. Tomorrow, we'll be observing many cargo shorts as we experience a stifling high of 63 degrees, followed by a chancely occurring precipitation throughout the day. With the Franciscan Beat, I'm Matt Walker.